As a hospice nurse, I have almost seen people choose the moment when they will die. This is a phenomena that we do see from time to time in the world of hospice. In this video, I'm going to get into more detail about this, why we think it happens, and then I'm going to tell you one of my craziest stories. So people choosing when they're going to die. I've seen it one of three ways usually. One, people waiting for everyone to get into town before they die, or people waiting until everyone leaves to die, or people choosing a specific date or time after a certain event and then they die. Why does this happen? We don't really know, but personality does seem to play a role in this. So people who are really extroverted, people who are always wanting to be around people, seem to wait for all of their loved ones to get there. People who are maybe the matriarch of the family will seem to wait until everyone is there, or at least in the same state, in the same house, everyone's in the room sometimes, until they will take their last breath. I have seen a woman who was in her late 90s, actively dying, meaning fully unconscious, not eating and drinking. She was the matriarch of this family, and she waited 3 weeks. 3 weeks. I've never seen anyone actively die for 3 weeks, meaning no food and water, not waking up, just lying in bed and breathing, waiting until every last family member was in that house. By the time she did eventually take her last breath, there was at least 30 people in the home. I've never seen anything like it. That's a perfect example of someone waiting till everyone gets there to take their last breath. I've also seen the opposite. So people with the personality of someone very private, very prideful, very independent, someone who wouldn't want their loved ones to, quote unquote, see them like this. Their words, not mine. Tend to wait until everyone leaves the room. Now, I've seen this so many times. Loving, adoring family members, taking turns watching dad. And slowly but surely over days, they eventually all have to, one will get up to go to the bathroom, one gets up to go to get a coffee, one has to leave to go shower and change. And that's when their dad takes his last breath. Of course, they're all devastated. We've been waiting here. We didn't want him to be alone. But sometimes I truly think they want to be alone. They are literally waiting to be alone to finally be able to let go. One of the more surprising ones that I have witnessed on hospice are patients who literally will pick a date. My daughter's wedding is August 17th, so I'm going to live until August 17th, and they do, and then they will die 2 days later. They are well enough to actually go to the wedding, and then right after the wedding, it's almost like their body and brain are like done. And then they will die very shortly after. Or someone who wants to wait until their birthday. Jimmy Carter, for instance, says he wants to wait until he can vote this November. He just turned 100. Will he make it? He might just because of his personality and him saying that's what he wants. So personality really comes into play there as well. Special events really help keep people alive because they really want to see X, Y, and Z, or they want to wait until after Christmas so they don't, quote unquote, ruin the holidays. I have seen this so many times, and enough that we really do feel like we have to educate people about this may be happening. Or if you think your loved one is hanging on, right? Hanging on because they're waiting for someone to come into town to say goodbye, or they're waiting to hear you say, I'm going to be okay. It's okay. You can let go. A lot of times people need to hear those final things to know that their family is going to be okay once they're gone. So I've seen this type of choosing when someone would die many, many times, but this particular story that I'm about to tell you was the craziest time. So this happened many years ago when I was a new hospice nurse. I was admitting this woman onto service. She had a son with a disability and a 24-hour caregiver who cared for both of them. Now, I gotta tell you this because she barely made it onto hospice, meaning, yes, she was elderly. Yes, she had technically a terminal diagnosis, but she was up, walking, talking, fully alert and oriented. Like, she almost didn't seem like she could get onto service because we weren't even sure if she really would be dying in the next 6 months, which is one of the criteria for hospice. But because of everything going on in her life, and she did technically meet criteria, I even said this to her, we'll sign you on for a trial period. We'll see how you're doing in a few months. We may have to take you off. She agreed, the caregiver agreed, and we went on our merry way. I waited next week until the next visit, when suddenly I got a call the next week from the caregiver saying I had to come because the patient had died. Now, I get there, I am shocked. I'm on my way there and I'm shocked that this person had died. Like, what happened? We didn't see any decline. No one called us over the weekend. Like, what had happened is what I'm thinking. And when I get there, the caregiver looks just as shocked as I do. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. You know, what happened? Did something happen over the weekend? Did she decline? And she goes, Julie, you are not going to believe this. And I feel bad that I didn't believe this yesterday, she was saying to me, because yesterday they were doing their normal thing they do on the weekends, which was bake blueberry muffins. And after blueberry muffins, the patient said, you know, I'm tired, I'm gonna go to bed early. And the caregiver didn't really think anything of it. And she was like, okay, great, I'll help you to bed, you know, yada, yada. She did her thing, she was in bed, and suddenly the patient said to the caregiver, thank you so much for caring for me. I love you. Please promise me you'll continue to take care of my son. And the caregiver's like, what? Of course. I'm going to take care of you and your son. I'll always take care of you guys. And the patient goes, no, I'm tired. I'm going home. Please promise me you'll take care of my son. At this point, the caregiver's like, what are you talking about, girl? You are home. You are home. Everything's fine. You're not going anywhere. And neither am I. Everything's fine. And she just repeated again, no, I'm tired. I'm going home. Promise me you'll take care of my son. So she was like, of course, I promise. I promise. Then she goes, okay, call him in here. So then she calls the son in. Son comes over. She hugs him, kisses him, says sweet things in his ear, you know, about I love you, I'll always love you, I'm always here when you need me, things like that. And the son doesn't think much of it, says good night, mom, and leaves. The caregiver's like, what is going on with you? She still kept kind of talking in code, just saying stuff like, I'm going home, I'm tired. And the caregiver eventually just sort of brushed it off and was like, I guess she's just tired. I'm gonna let her go to sleep. I'll see you in the morning, right? So that's what she said. I'll let you go to sleep. I'll see you in the morning. Next morning she comes in. She is gone. She died. And no, there was no reason for her to die. She did not take any medication. She didn't do anything to make this happen. She just somehow knew. The caregiver called us and told us what happened. She just somehow knew. And that's the one and only time I've seen something so drastic where someone somehow just knew. They knew it was their time. They knew they were done and they were going to die. So I don't know why and how some people have the ability to do this, but being a hospice nurse and seeing it with my own eyes, I do know these things happen.